Get ready to sing your heart out. Penn Live Arts is bringing Choir to Philly on Saturday, November 8th to unite strangers through the power of communal music making. This is your chance to be the performer, singing your way through the greatest songs of all time, from Leonard and Joni to Whitney and Shania. So whether your voice sounds like or more like, you're invited to this epic sing-along. Get your tickets for November 8th at pennlivearts.org. Cities across the country have been reeling because of heightened immigration enforcement. So we wanted to know how Philly's immigrant communities are being impacted. I'm talking with Peter Pedimonte, co-director of New Sanctuary Movement, a faith-based organization that is trying to educate, advocate, and protect families. It's Monday, October 27th. I'm Trinae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Peter, I just want to say thank you for speaking with us today. And I also want to start off by asking you, how are people feeling? Every day you work with people who have come to this country from other countries, are coming to the Philly region to live, work, and go to school. So can you just describe to us how people are feeling since President Donald Trump has come back into office back in January and are experiencing these policies?
We are seeing a new level of fear from our communities that we haven't. I mean, this is next level. I mean, I think, right, there's been a level of fear through the first administration, through Biden's administration, through Obama, because a lot of these policies have continued. But with Trump, I mean, as he engages, I think really a campaign of psychological warfare against people, really like systematically trying to take, not only pursuing people in the streets with ICE, but really trying to take away every safe space they have. We see a level of like fear, and rightly so, from folks that we haven't seen. So we do faith-based organizing. We work with 40 congregations in the city. And some congregations are seeing people nervous to go to church. We have people nervous about getting on a Zoom meeting because of the worry of somehow being able to be tracked by that.
And is that true, though? Can people be tracked by Zoom?
No, we have not seen that yet. However, right, like with the budget reconciliation and the billions of dollars going to ICE, Homeland Security is investing in online surveillance. And there are some challenges to that. But I think we are in a very scary time right now. And on the flip side of that, right, so we do see a lot of fear. And then we see a lot of like courage. We see a lot of people stepping forward to organize and to fight this. We see a lot of wisdom too, right? Like a lot of people have experienced authoritarianism in their home countries and have fled to the US. And so we're also learning a lot, right? Like from folks from Indonesia or El Salvador or Guatemala, like who are coming here and saying, like, we recognize this, and also share organizing strategies and what helped. And so I do think there is a lot of resilience in communities. So we do see people organizing among themselves to share if ICE is on a block. We see people, while maybe we have less immigrant community members showing up to a protest than we did a year ago, there are other ways that people are organizing and educating. And I think that's really powerful.
It also seems exhausting and scary and unsettling because you can't do some of the, basic everyday things that we're all doing, like go to church and build community online and go to the grocery store, go to work. I mean, we've heard stories where communities felt scared to go to work down at the Italian market. We have communities in Southwest and Northeast Philly. So what are parents telling their kids? Like, are kids going to school? Are people not working at this time?
People have to live, right? Like, it's not a viable option just to stay home because people have to survive. People have to move on with their lives. And I think there's heightened anxiety and fear around bringing your kids to school. So we had a man in the Northeast who was picked up by ICE. He went out to walk his dog. I think they were looking for his brother, and they found him and arrested him. I think people, rightly so, are nervous about that and are nervous about going to work or are nervous about dropping their kids off at school. And at the same time, we see a lot of resilience and like you still have to live your life. But also that takes a toll on people. It takes a toll on kids. So we see more kids being bullied in school, being called illegal or you're going to get deported.
Oh man,
Um, yeah, and we see kids worried about their parents when we have to have, right? Parents have to have these discussions. Those are hard conversations.
for
Um,
sure.
and and I think parents and those have like right emotional impacts on families, on kids. And we have a Ice Watch program, and we had responded. This was maybe 2 months ago, but had responded to an alert about ice being at a supermarket in the Northeast. And that morning we had two alerts, and two were false alarms. But this one I responded to, and got there, and there were five agents outside, and ended up going in the back, and there were five more agents who had detained somebody. And he was a single father from Guatemala, and he had a 12-year-old here, and the mom was back in their home country, but they detained him and brought him off. And I have an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old, and that broke me. I mean, like to wonder what that father felt like sitting in Moshannon that night, or what his son was feeling that night. I think those are moments that expose the brutality of Trump's immigration policy and the hard-heartedness. And my hope is that, right, we all stay soft right now. We keep soft hearts right now, and that should break the hearts of everybody in the country. And I think in our grief and letting our hearts break over and over, I think that also moves us to action because we can't stay in grief. We have to move to action. And I think we are in a moment where everybody needs to take a role. Everyone needs to do something. It doesn't have to be all the same thing, but we are in a moment where we need everybody right now.
You mentioned ICE alerts or this ICE watch. What exactly is that?
There are different groups across the city that people in different neighborhoods who are ready to go out and confirm. So if there is an ICE sighting or report of ICE, can go out and confirm if it is ICE or say, no, that's police or that is a Walmart security guard. And the problem right now is that ICE agents have stopped wearing any insignia. So you can't actually tell if they're ICE. They usually use black flak jackets, right, olive green or black pants. They're armed, sometimes with very large guns. Sometimes they wear masks, sometimes not. I was going shopping the other day, and outside of a store, right, the security guard is wearing the exact same uniform as an ICE agent right now. And so it's hard. It's hard to know. Or, right, people, because this administration has been so brutal, people are on high alert, as they should be. And so sometimes police activity can cause an alarm. So that allows us to get good information out to people in the community about whether something is happening or not. And I also think it's bearing witness. And so you might not be able to stop an arrest, but I think bearing witness filming is important. And I think right now, ordinary people refusing to go along with what's happening is absolutely key.
So, Peter, you're saying that ICE agents are lurking in our communities and arresting people, intimidating people? And is this like in larger numbers than before?
So, yeah, what we're seeing, we've tracked ICE for a long time, for over 10 years, and we are seeing very new behavior right now. So in Philadelphia, what we used to see is them, when they'd arrest somebody, they would usually do it very early in the morning as that person was leaving for work. They were in and out of a community, and before anyone could see them, usually waited till that person was leaving their home. Now they are around from early morning to afternoon, and a lot of times they're hanging around. And I think the strategy there is to make their presence known. In the first few weeks of the administration, we saw ICE agents just hanging around different, especially north, northeast, south, southwest, hanging around neighborhoods, circling schools. We had one wander into a church flea market and leave. And what we've realized is that part of the tactic is intimidation, is fear. in that it's not just detaining people, it is letting people know this is their territory and trying to intimidate people. So now what we see is they might be hanging around in a grocery store parking lot, and then they go out and do an operation and come back. But what we do see in Philadelphia, we're still seeing that ICE is targeting individuals. So they're not doing mass sweeps. They're not just standing on a corner asking people for papers. They are looking for specific individuals. So that might be at home. It might be someone driving and they pull them over, but they're looking for someone specific. And there could be collateral arrests, which is a term they use to basically, if they're looking for one person, there's a couple people with them, they will arrest the others as well. And so I think what's important right now is that we have facts, right? That people know what ICE is doing in Philadelphia so that we respond well. We also see them each week in the criminal court building in Philadelphia. So they're often hanging out around there, arresting people they're looking for when they leave criminal court, which is a huge problem. One, again, you have unidentified, unmarked people just grabbing someone off the sidewalk. Two, it interrupts the system of like victims and witnesses coming to court. It interrupts people's rights to a fair trial if people are nervous about coming to criminal court because they could be detained. And we see them also at ICE check-ins, which is when someone has to come to ICE to check in and make sure they're still here and still at the same address, which was before the second Trump administration. People could come and most likely would be able to do a check-in and leave. And now we see a lot of people getting detained at those check-ins. I should say I don't want to say that's a normal procedure, right? Monitoring and surveying people is not an okay procedure, but right, we have seen that as a place where ICE will detain people.
Do you know how many ICE raids have happened in Philly since Trump's immigration crackdown began?
That's a good question. I don't know. We do know. I think the Inquirer did some good reporting on this around, especially when Stephen Miller and others set the quota at 3,000 in the early summer. There was a spike in arrests and detentions.
So what should undocumented immigrants be doing? Should they not leave their house as much as possible? Should they not take the kids to the park? What's your best recommendation, Peter?
I think three things. One, people need to stay informed. They should make sure they know their rights. And, knowing your rights is important. It's not a silver bullet. It's not going to if ICE is going to arrest you, they may well arrest you, even if you follow all your rights. However, there are some things that it keeps you safe. It makes sure, you don't share any more information. You don't sign your own voluntary departure order, et cetera. People should have an emergency plan for them and their kids if, in the worst case scenario, they're detained. And also staying informed about what's happening. What's ICE doing here? Because they act differently in different parts of the country. And so knowing that information is helpful. Two is staying connected. There is safety and power in being connected either to one of the immigrant justice organizations or your congregation, and I think it's not safer to be isolated right now. If something happens, if you're connected, you have a community that's going to throw down for you. There's power in being connected. It's how we can organize and push back on this. And then third, I think is taking action and pushing back against this. So knowing all that is important, and people still need to live their lives. We haven't seen ICE just come to a park with kids and start arresting people. There have been individual detentions, like at Mifflin Park in South Philly. They did detain 5 people a month ago, I believe. And so I think people do need to be careful, but also be informed, because there's also a lot of misinformation out there, especially on social media or WhatsApp groups. There's a huge spike in misinformation that is spreading more fear among communities. And I think that that combined with the very aggressive and systemized cruelty of the Trump administration is causing people to not want to go to church or go to the park.
Peter, what are your rights if you're ever approached by ICE?
The Constitution applies to all people. It doesn't matter your citizenship or your immigration status. Is very clearly directed to all people. And so your rights are the same, right? You have a right to remain silent. So you don't have to say anything other than your name. If you're approached on the street, you have a right to ask, am I being detained or am I free to go? And if they say you're not being detained, you can walk away slowly. You also, right, you should not run. You should not lie. Don't lie to a federal officer. It's a felony. And then if you are detained, it's the same thing. Do not say anything. Do not give them any more information. And don't sign anything. ICE often uses try to persuade people or trick people into signing their own voluntary deportation. And then I think, for members who helped us put together, right, our workshops, really talk about like try to stay calm, keep the faith, know that people on the outside are organizing for you, and you will have a chance to make a call. But yeah, don't say anything, don't sign anything.
Are city leaders doing enough to protect immigrant communities in Philadelphia?
No. Short answer is no. Mayor Parker has taken the strategy of kind of keeping her head down, not saying anything against the Trump administration to avoid being targeted. And what is problematic about that is that someone like Trump, maybe he doesn't turn toward Philly now, but he's going to.
Why do you say that?
That's a good question. I mean, I think unless she pledges her loyalty to him, like I think Trump and authoritarians work on loyalty. And so I think unless she absolutely says, yes, I will cancel our sanctuary city policy, I will support immigration enforcement, just not saying anything is not enough.
What do you want Mayor Parker to do?
I want a firmer commitment to stand behind Philly's welcoming city or sanctuary city policy. To when the pressure comes, and the city solicitor has said the executive order is still in line, that we will litigate if they threaten our federal funding, and that's good. However, when the pressure does come, right, if they try to take away federal funding, if they actually try to prosecute local officials, which we know is against the law, but if they try to do that, will they stand firm? And I think the assurances we've gotten from the mayor's office have been minimal. And I think right now the immigrant communities need a stronger assurance from them that they are going to get people's back when the going gets tough. And so I think the city's policy, the sanctuary city policy, which basically blocks collaboration between Philly police and ICE, it doesn't keep ICE out of the city. What it does do, though, it does block a pathway that allows ICE to deport more people. And while it doesn't end all deportations, it's sort of like if you think of ICE as like an octopus, it binds one of the tentacles. And that's why the Trump administration has put so much pressure on this, because it allows them to detain more people, get those numbers up. And so that is an important thing that keeps families together. But it also, I think, has been a very important stand by Philadelphia that sends a message to immigrant communities that the city is with them and they are actually welcome here. And so that policy is important. I also will say, last thing I will say in this moment, and I think why it's important too, why I'm nervous about the strategy of being quiet, not saying anything, is that I do think right now all institutions need to be refusing to cooperate with the Trump administration. So whether that's universities, religious organizations, and cities, it does make a difference that cities refuse to comply with him. The quietness makes me, one, nervous about what happens when the pressure increases.
We'll have more on this conversation after the break. Peter, let's take a moment, and I would love for you to explain what is the new sanctuary movement and what do you all do? What's your role? And you told me earlier that there's 40 religious organizations that are part of your group.
Yeah, so we are a faith-rooted immigrant justice organization. And so we work with about 40 congregations across the Philadelphia area, both immigrant and allied communities, really coming together to live out, I think, our religious teachings that tell us to welcome the stranger, to love our neighbor. And so what that looks like is we accompany people facing deportation, one, supporting them through that case, but also like going with them to either immigration court or ICE check-ins or criminal court. We do a lot of education around not just like know your rights and being prepared, but also like how to organize, how to build power in your community, and for congregations right now, what to do if ICE ever came to your congregation. And then we work on campaigns. And so we fight anti-immigrant policies. We work for proactive policies, like in Pennsylvania, I'm working to make sure that everyone has access to driver's licenses, regardless of your status, or making sure the city stays firm on their sanctuary city policy. And right, a lot of that right now is bringing people together to build power, to push back on what's happening. And I think, especially right now, where this administration is, we see a rise is co-opting the Christian voice, and we see a rise of white Christian nationalism. I think the faith voice pushing back on that is really important.
Is it like several different types of religious organization? Yeah.
Yeah, so we are an interfaith organization. So we work with synagogues and different types of Christian denominations as well.
And you founded the New Sanctuary movement nearly 2 decades ago. So why did you start this group? And is the objective that you had back then the same as it is now? Do you have new challenges? What's keeping you up at night? I kind of want to know that.
Hmm. I mean, ultimately, yeah, it's the same mission, right? It's like, how do we live out this call? There was a small group that started the organization in 2007 and 8, and it was a mix of clergy, of community members, and some organizers that came together and saw the potential of organizing the faith community around immigration issues. And I think at our faith institutions at our best is calls us to base our lives and our laws based on love and based on solidarity and treating other people as you want to be treated. Right. And like if we really treated each other as a brother and sister, whether that be someone who's asking for support on the street in center city or someone who just got here from another country, that would be radical change in our society. And so I think we seek to like live that out, how we live together, and make sure when our laws don't line up with that, we fight to change that. And so, right, that has deepened over the years, but we're still doing that. And I think right now we're seeing a drastic violation. And, especially with around immigration, our faith teachings are real clear on this. This is not a vague area. How we treat the newest among us is very clear. So we are not only facing a political crisis, but like a deep moral crisis in this country.
There's sanctuary in the name of your group. So are the churches and the congregations that are involved with your organization, are they organizing in a way to give people sanctuary who may get pursued by ICE?
As far as sanctuary goes, no, we have no congregations that are offering physical sanctuary. And there are so many other ways that faith communities are organizing, are pushing back, whether that be through accompaniment or education, and really, and like pushing back on these policies. And we've done some really, I think, powerful and beautiful like faith leader actions where we, in the first couple weeks of administration, we covered a love statue with a black shroud and sort of read a litany as we uncovered it about what love looks like in public. We built an altar in front of ICE, including offering, right, the ICE agents who were watching us bread at the end. I had a workshop with our some Indonesian members, and we do this activity where it was reflecting on like the Trump administration is so good at claiming space, right? Like every day it's just another cruelty or policy or outlandish thing they've just done. And it can be all consuming. And I do think that it's healthy to focus on all the ways people are resisting. I think that spreads courage, and then I think it also gives hope. So the faith communities have been very active and I think very strong pushing back against this, but sanctuary has not been one of those. And part of that is I do not believe this administration would respect that boundary. That's a boundary that's gone back thousands of years. But with they did change the sensitive locations memo back when he first came in. And so took that away, which had protected places of worship as well as schools, hospitals, and things like that from from ICE enforcement, and they took that away. But I think the moments that I've felt the most hopeful right now is when we do these actions. When I look around and see people all together acting, I remember that this is a hard moment, but together we can do this.
So, Peter, what's your message to those who think that the country needs more immigration enforcement, that, immigrants who don't have legal papers should be deported for not following the rules?
I think for me is to really look closer. I think, see that the people who are coming here and who are right now being rounded up are people just like you. They're your brothers and sisters. They're fathers and mothers. These are families that are being broken apart. I also think for me is how do you get back in that softness of your heart and back into who your deepest values. And so whether that's religious values that teach us to love our neighbor as ourselves or welcome the stranger, or just humanity values of fairness and being kind to others. I think the policies we're seeing are really violating those and harming people. I think my hope is to reapproach this. And I think as we see more and more of what this is looking like, I do think more people are questioning, is this what we voted for? Did we vote for military helicopters dropping down agents on an apartment building at 1 a.m. in Chicago and going through and detaining all the people in the apartments, both citizen and immigrant, including children, zip tying children and putting them in a U-Haul until 3 a.m. until they determined whether or not they had status? I don't think most people in the country want that. I don't think when we see videos of a single father being arrested and leaving their 12-year-old at home, I don't think most people want that. But that is what this administration is doing.
Peter, thank you so much for speaking with me today on CityCast Philly.
Yeah, thank you, Trinae.
That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Let us know what you think of this episode and share this with a friend. Rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. And don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Philly neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.